So a farmhouse has been situated at this site for 900 years, although the buildings have changed in number and sizes. These are new houses built in the style of the old ones. No sense going up and visiting that area while the tourists are there. Try to avoid them by going a different route. It's funny, we think of peat houses as so primitive, but while they are, they represent the classic use of local resources, and they're probably pretty darn effective and efficient. Whether it was necessary to use wood on these end portions that we see to support both the doorways and windows, I don't know. Here, looking at the side, you ask, are those windows embedded just in peat, or are they attached to a wood internal structure? Maybe we'll learn more when we get to go inside. You can see walls made of peat. Whether these are new or not, I don't know. They look like it. I wonder, is peat self-sustaining in this environment? In other words, does it continue to thrive or exist in its basic form in the wet weather, or does it deteriorate over time? Notice that here there's a base of stones, which should seem to suggest that peat can get deteriorated if it's left ground to ground. And also stones on top of here to hold it down. Whether that is to create an overall compression or just to hold down the top layer, I don't know. But it makes for a very good looking wall. Very straight lines. Pretty, actually, in its way. And we can go inside. So inside we go. The organ is interesting because all of the pipes are made of wood. It appears the entire organ is made of wood and a rather modern design to boot. The narrow stairs up to the belfry. Again, we get an idea of how this is laid out. This is the interface of the roof with the walls, but notice that there's at least two ungrassed layers of peat underneath the grassy part, and a mushroom. You wonder if the stones serve a function. The complex that we're about to visit is in fact the farm and home and church of a priest, his wife, and his family. Interesting that a whole community would be set out like this. I mean, not strange, just interesting. So the wood that's in here, which is belied by the peat on the outside, comes from driftwood. Driftwood from Siberia. Much more in the past than what I saw in the last several days along the coast. And probably bigger pieces would have been a little bad. What was the need to enclose that like that? but perhaps there was a drapery that hung all the way down. So this is actually a lace maker's tool. She would keep this on her lap and then work on that round part, apparently. There's a narrow stair to the upstairs, so we'll go up as far as we can and look inside. Here's some kind of roller, or for, I don't know if it was for produce or whether it was for getting water out of laundry or what, chests. This would have been a place for beds also, because the heat would rise, making this an ideal place to sleep after the stove and working all day long. These look like carpet or some kind of fabric manufacturing devices. So it's a knitting machine, and somewhere over there is a mangling machine. Have to look that word up. Of course, the spinning jenny, someone used in 1940s. It allowed the spinning of many threads at one time, obviously increased productivity. So the young woman answered one question I have, and that's about the lifespan of turf. Some of the turf in this hallway is 200 years old. When turf is protected itself from the weather, primarily water, it can last 200 years. Normally they figure about 100 years if it's inside. If it's outside, it depends on how much moisture it gets and whether the turf itself had as a substrate or as part of the matrix clay or sand. If it had sand and there's lots of moisture, it deteriorates rapidly as the sand leaches out. If it had clay, sometimes that clay can form a barrier, harden, and then protect anything beneath it. Now, there's no attempt to heat these rooms, but they do feel warmer than the outside is. I suspect it's an excellent insulator. So this is a butter churner with leverage. So you operate the handle here, and it does the churning. You can get, I don't know that it increases the amount of work done for the energy output as much as changing the position of the arms in providing that output. Notice these pails had just little round covers to them that would lift up and then pull out, I suspect. This is a cheese grill, and it's used for putting it down inside of a barrel when you're making cheese and pulling up the curds. This is for butter. You roll this over the butter at a certain process and stage, and it removes any remaining buttermilk from the butter. Some kind of a block, I think, for creating butter blocks, if you will. And most of these are just pails for collecting the milk from the animal. And more modern implements for creating butter, including this small one, which of course I've seen before. Here we're in a much longer room. This looks like the kitchen. Large barrel for storage. Guessing these windows might have provided a bit of ventilation, because it sure would have gotten smoky in here. Notice for eggs, I guess. And 3 different fire pits going. Of course, this is made from stone more than peat, but you'll still see some peat embedded in there. Another long room with chests and dinnerware. Whether this was the dining room or not, I don't know. Probably a simple whisk broom for making pastries. This device was apparently used for chopping herbs or grasses that might be used in cooking, I guess, out in the field. Same with these 2 to the left. Grinder, I think, nuts and so forth. Interesting plates.